And now I'm here. Everyone should be hearing me at the moment. Let's get a top-down view. And it looks like inSKY is about to touch down for the win. Yeah, let us know if you guys are hearing Iron Mike there in the background now. How is he sounding? Do I need to move him up or down if you are hearing him? No. How is he sounding? Do I need to... I believe so. I don't see why it wouldn't be, but let me double check that. Alright guys, bear with us one moment here. We're going to get round 2 up and going here. They're restarting the server right now. We're still working through those initial audio issues we had.
Yeah, it has to be going to a different audio interface. Otherwise, we would be hearing it.
I think we're checking now because I think I just saw you coming through on that. They should be hearing you and him now. Hopefully, who knows? At least it seems.
Oh
like
yeah,
it.
actually, I heard myself on stream.
Yep, there we go. Okay, I think maybe finally, Iron Mike, we might have this.
All right, 1, 2, 3, test Iron Mike test.
Oh, it looks like we might have it.
There you go.
Now you only have to fix back down Iron Mike's gain in TeamSpeak, and then it should be working.
Beautiful. Microvax, you are amazing, sir. Thank you very much for coming in here and helping us straighten that out. Much appreciated, sir.
No problem.
Thank you, Simon.
Yes.
All right, guys, and hopefully here we'll move on into round 2. Round 1 certainly was definitely entertaining. Iron Mike, maybe you can start off with giving us your thoughts on what you saw there in round 1.
Yeah, so round 1 I think was very passive from both sides. I think we can jump down back in the streaming channel, by the way.
Yep.
User left your channel. User joined your channel.
Or not.
Yeah, I just realized I didn't have the requisite.
That's okay. We'll just stay here. Okay, first of all, guys, sorry for all the technical issues. We tested the stream yesterday. We didn't test the audio. Our bad. Really sorry that you had to watch through the first match without proper audio, but at least you got Billy's commentary, so that's something. I think we've seen 2 very strong teams who were a little bit passive both. I think, you know, there was a lot of in cold. There was a 3-3 hot cold box on the inSKY side. There was a 4-2 box on the 51st side. With a little longer arm and length of the AIM-120Bs, inSKY of course is a bit more able to push into that box, which then finally they did. 51st got very unlucky with a disconnect from Technetinium, which of course, you know, always puts you at a disadvantage if you lose one guy due to stuff like that. So today obviously is a day that is a little bit riddled by technical issues on many sides, but let's hope that this is now, the curse is broken and we won't have any more disconnects, stuff like that. But in the end, you know, I mean, inSKY was able to put up a little bit more of a wall against the 51st while pushing them back and then really going into those gaps and utilizing on those short runs. I mean, if you stay too passive for too long, what's gonna happen is you're gonna run out of missiles at some point, you're gonna get under pressure because of fuel, The SU-27 really doesn't have so much of these fuel issues if you fly her correctly, but at some point it is, in my opinion, better to go into the fight than stay out of the fight. There are just certain situations where you have to fight it out and you have to put pressure on the enemy, and I think 51st could have put a little bit more pressure on inSKY from the get-go, and especially then through the second half of the first round, right?
I would agree with that. Yep.
Yeah, so that's unfortunately, if you're too much cold, if you're too defensive, if you're too careful, you are more and more a little bit cornering each other. We were talking about it with Simon before, while we were waiting to fix the audio issues. There's one tactic the SAS, especially air service, has. If they're overwhelmed by a major force, what they do is either they leapfrog out of it, like the SEALs would do. That's just replacing one shooter by the other, and then having exchange position, extend to the side, and then out of the fight. That's when you want to extract. But if you have no extract possibilities, then what they do is basically they make a sort of leapfrog going forward towards the enemy. So they shoot, they lay down, they make a step forward, they shoot, they lay down, they make a step forward. And sometimes 10 guys can pin down a force of 50 guys like that, because the enemy will come under the impression there's something overwhelming for us going on, and especially if you have good shooters in that sense, you don't need to aim in DCS in that sense, but with these things you can basically turn around that thing that you have something that's overwhelming coming towards you. If you face it head on, and if you can put real pressure and aggression on them, you can split them apart, you can startle them, and you can force them into making mistakes much more, rather than if you let them push you back and back and back forth. So that will be my success of the first round.
I would completely agree with that. Like I said, I think you touched on it there. I think there was a few opportunities 51st had to really maybe drive the hammer there a few times, where inSKY shifted a little bit over maybe of where they wanted to be, and we just didn't see 51st pounce maybe as quickly as we would have liked to. So hopefully they come out here in this second round here with a little bit more aggression and can get in there and disrupt that pattern or that formation that we're seeing out of inSKY, because I think, like you hinted on just a few minutes ago, getting in and disrupting inSKY is one of the key pieces, I think, to really doing something against them. They are very much, you can see, they hold that formation almost the entire match, and if you can do something to get in there and break that up early on, I really think you throw them for a loop, and you force their hand to do what they don't want to do, and then that's where the mistakes start coming in.
Yeah, and Comey posted it, SAS motto, who dares wins. And it really is a little bit like that. At some points you have to dare to win. If you do not, like I mentioned, you will end up in that corner, and you can fight out of corners, but it's just becoming much more difficult for you. And then if you do a mistake, and if you lose a guy by accident, something like that, then of course you're at a big disadvantage, while the other guys are just being boosted in their momentum, being boosted in their confidence, and they can keep advancing onto you, and in such a high pressure environment like SATAL, or competitive matches like that, that's very obvious. That these confidence boosts can sometimes turn around a match. It's just how much do you also let yourself get cornered psychologically. And that doesn't mean that I think that the 51st were scared or anything. I don't think that at all, but I think they were a little bit too patient and a little bit too much reliant on bringing in that patience and waiting for inSKY to do a mistake. We'd have to wait much longer for that to grind people of that level, both the 51st and inSKY, down to a level where you really then can start capitalizing on mistakes that happen just out of them being in it for too long. Okay, we don't have that length here. Thus you can do that over a lengthy campaign with somebody, but not on a single mission.
I totally agree. I think that assessment's very spot on there. in certain situations, can you play that long game there and try to work them to the point where they just start making their own mistakes on their own? I don't, I think it's difficult to try to force that luxury within the environment we have here. So, getting out, being aggressive, and I think from a psychological perspective, you have to make them feel like you're about to do something. Even if you're going to do what you normally do, you kind of have to make them feel like you're going to do something that they haven't seen, because that in itself can force those mistakes that you're talking about a lot earlier, I think. So definitely incumbent upon them to show some aggression.
And if you wear them out, that is always a good tactic, but you have to wear them out actively, not passively, which means, for example, making a lot of mock attacks, right? So they expend their missiles, shoot the occasional missiles at them so they expend the fuel and so on. So you gotta work your enemy in order to force them into the corner and not get cornered yourself. I think but inSKY kind of, because of it wasn't that inSKY was that much more aggressive. Like the first half of the first round was very equal in that there were times where both teams were just completely cold, both of them, right? And it's like pointing away from the enemy is very hard to shoot the enemy, So I hope both teams will bring in a little bit more aggression for this round, and that we see a little bit more fight going on. Of course, for you guys, that is much more interesting. But at the same time, of course, I applaud also the patience that the team brings. I mean, now we're in a stage of SATAL where the stakes are higher, where it's you get more or less eliminated. I mean, you get into a runner-up, but still you do not make it in the finals anymore if you lose. So it's natural that teams start getting more careful, more defensive, and stuff like that. Billy, I would suggest that who did we watch take off the last time?
I don't think we got to catch anyone taking off the last time. That's a solid point. We'll focus on the guys who went down in the first one. We'll give them the view here coming up, and then we'll let the winner of this one take the next one.
I would suggest let's just let them watch the aircraft a little bit taxiing there, so they can enjoy the view. There was a question: what about the best offense is a good defense? Yes and no. There's this saying: offense wins the match, defense wins the championship. Yeah, that means you cannot rely only on either or. You have to bring both. And if you have a strong offense and you have a weak defense, you're gonna lose. Likewise, if you have a strong defense and a weak offense, you're gonna lose as well. So you have to be well balanced in both. And on a long shot, I agree. Defense is what wins the championship, but offense is what wins the match. So you got to bring both. And you have to hone yourself in both areas, or at some point you will just get into trouble.
That's a great one right there. Actually, I hadn't heard that offense wins the match. I've always, I think everyone's heard, defense wins championships, but offense wins the match and defense wins the championship. That's a good one right there, and certainly very poignant to what we got going on here, because I think, like you're saying, having that balance, having that ability to both play defense when the situation dictates it, but know when to flip that switch and drop the hammer and move into that offensive, attack mode, I think is so important within this, and having the ability for that GCI to be looking down from the top and read that picture and know when that moment is there is so crucial, I think.
Yeah. And this saying comes from Ultimate Frisbee, which I've been playing very competitively at a younger age when I didn't have such a fat belly like I have now.
Know that feeling.
I should have kept playing in hindsight, and I don't want to go too much in that, but in Frisbee it's like that. Who holds the disc is on the offense, and the other team can only defend, and only once you get the disc from the other team, then you're on the offense, So you got to really have both very well peeled out, Can I grab the disc from the other team, and then when I have it, can I capitalize on it? And if the other team has it, do I have a strong enough defense in order to grab it? And that's where this saying comes from, Okay, so right now we see the teams taking off. And I think you're focused on the 51st, is that correct?
A-Firm, 51st, and their J11s all coming off the runway right now, looking to move towards Bullseye.
So we have a lead 2-ship, X-Men and Technitinium, followed by Slutcher. Then we have Yaga and Molter in a 2-ship, followed by Frosty. So they get 2-1-2-1, which is a very good tactic. You have a 2-ship being able to box with one guy in the back as a backup, as a follow-up guy. And we have inSKY taking off as it looks in through 3 2-ships. We have inSKY 925 and 1821 as the lead, being joined by 115, and I think they will just come in as a group. It looks a little bit like they're all joining in the big formation here on the red side, while the 51st has a really nice lineup with 2-ship, 1-ship, and 2-ship. I think if you show the formation of the 51st, it's always something I like to point out. Something I adore in every team is like, how do you fly? Also, it's not only just about the killing. It's not only just about the missiles. It's also about how nice can you take off, how nice can you fly, how realistically can you fly a formation, and so on. And we all have to work on that in the DCS community, some more, some less. But you definitely see some differences between the teams, and I think the 51st can show some beautiful stuff there. So you will see those 2-in-1s are kept very consistently. inSKY is coming more in a guerrilla group. They have like a lead 2-ship, and then they have like a V4 ship spread out behind them. If that is intentional or not, I cannot really say. It looks intentional. We always give them the benefit of the doubt. So that looks good on both sides. For the fly-in, I think we can, if you want, you can stay focused a little bit on the aircraft, Billy, if you want, so people can enjoy the flights a little bit.
Indeed, yes.
We have a couple minutes or a couple seconds or whatever left until they hit each other. Yeah, so let's see what will happen now. I'm pretty sure that the 51st, are a very long-standing team, have a lot of experience, and I think they have enough experience in order to analyze their mistakes and capitalize on that analysis, and then react accordingly. And that's what I would like to see. I mean, of course, 51st are one of our longest friends. I'm trying to be impartial as I can. I wanna see both teams do well, but I also hope that the 51st comes out a little bit better on this match. They lost five pilots left on inSKY side versus 0 on 51st side. So in the end, may the better team win as always. But I hope we get a little bit more equal results, no matter who wins. That's what I'm wishing for this round.
I'm right there with you on that. I know I'd like to see 51st come out here and really step it up after that first round. I think they know what they did wrong there. I tend to feel that you're going to see them make some corrections here. So I think we're in for a pretty good match here. Round 2 of match 1.
So we have here a question: what's the bubble from Bullseye? I think it's 100 kilometers. Is it?
I believe so. Yes, I believe it's 100 kilometers from Bullseye, which you can see.
So you
there.
get a 100 kilometer radius from Bullseye going around. If you exit it, you cannot re-enter it, so that's a pilot lost. If everybody exits and the other team keeps holding the bubble for 5 minutes, then that would be an automatic win. Yeah. So right now, let me get the ruler up. We have 51st, 47 miles from Bullseye, and inSKY 42 miles from Bullseye. And I'm not gonna calculate that together. It's actually gonna be 98, but that's fine. At the moment they're 89, 90 miles away from each other approximately. So we have a couple of minutes left here. If you guys have any questions in the meantime, please feel free to ask. We're trying, to grab as many questions from you from the chat as we can. If we miss one, our apologies. Just spam the chat.
And we'll be sure to get to it. There you go.
Hopefully we'll get to it correctly.
I'm looking at 925 right now. And I'm not sure if this is a DCS thing or whether he's only running one engine. Not sure
this
if you
could be a desync issue. I mean,
could be a desync issue. Yep.
the thing with China is always that, I mean, not all of the Chinese guys from the China teams are in China, but those who are, of course, come with high pings. What I've seen in the past match was that, you know, in F10 views, some missiles flew completely by the aircraft. It was like, oh, it missed it, and then boop, the aircraft would disappear, and you know, it was a hit. So we have a little bit of desync issues, and I really hope that in-game that does not affect the match for the pilots who are in-game on either side.
Agreed. I think we saw a few cases of that. Sorry to interrupt you there. In that first round, I think we did see a few instances where as I would switch in, that missile was coming right over, and we weren't quite sure what was happening. But desync, I think, is the most likely culprit there in that situation. So definitely, with these pings, you have to kind of take that into account. You know, that stuff can affect things.
But that's okay, you know. I mean, that is one setback we gladly take into account in order to have everybody fly here, you know. I mean, unfortunately, netcode and internet, and a lot of people think, you know, it's just ED is too lazy to develop the netcode better and so on. But in general, people have to understand that netcode as such is not as far developed that we could really have like 200 guys flying without lag issues, without warp, without internet is not at that point yet.
No, unfortunately.
In gaming, you know, the expectations here from the community sometimes are slightly too high. I agree in general, you know, that the netcode needs improvement and that there needs to be stuff to be done so that we can fly with high pings as well. But high pings, no matter how much we advance, would always be an issue, and we'll always have to deal with it. But it's still better to deal with high pings than exclude certain parts of the world just because we're on this side and they're on that side. You know, that's unfair.
Totally agree.
And I'm really happy that we have guys from Asia fly. You know, I mean, it's always been something very close to us to include people from Asia who are so often not able to join the servers where we have to enforce ping limits of 250 and so on. Like Fallen said, leads to proximity fuse issues and such and such. LAN party would be great.
That be awesome?
LAN party, but unfortunately.
No, and I think,
you know,
as you're pointing out, I don't care what developer, what genre of game you're talking about. I think, you know, we all of us here that play enough games online, netcode is generally an issue no matter what you're talking about. And I think it's to what you're alluding to there. You know, the internet is progressing to the point where we're going to be able to do some cool stuff with these massive, you know, servers full of people. But we are unfortunately just not there yet. But keep progressing towards it. You know, things like SATAL, things like that help progress that type of stuff, right? You know, pushing the envelope, if you will.
So the teams now have a very similar setup like they had before. We still have the 451st guys in the front and the 2 box guys in the back, so they can do a hot-cold box, which is a very 51st-ish thing. And inSKY again is split up 3 versus 3. And this is actually a situation, I think, where the 51st could capitalize on a little bit, because they're coming in with, you know, even if it's just one guy more, but this is a point where they can put on a little bit of pressure. Okay, we have an AIM-7 fired on Technitinium, who is going cold. Then we have inSKY 552, who is going cold in the north, and 115 on the south is pushing on X-Man with an AIM-120B being launched now on X-Man. As you can see now, Motor and Jager are pressing on, and this is what I wanted to see. This is the big difference between this match and the other match. It took almost, I think, 5 or more minutes in the last round that the first missile even has been fired. You know, here we have already 2 missiles in the air. Those 2 guys who've been fired on are going defensive now. They're exchanging for Slutcher and Frosty in the back, who are the hot-cold box for them. So very well played by the 51st so far, and we have Jager and Molter keeping pressure on those guys so that they cannot just take over from the back. We have an ET shot here from Jager and AIM-120B being fired from 925 on Jager. Yaga is going cold, and what they did now is they pushed through this little maneuver. They pushed the 51st. They pushed inSKY a little bit further back than in the last round, and already you can see that the 51st has a very small but still an upper hand at this moment. The good thing is here as well that Yaga and Malta did not push too far either, because then they would get clamped from both sides by inSKY and would be very much in danger through that. But the hot cold box is working on the 51st side at the moment. The inSKY hot cold box has because of that fallen a little bit apart, and that's exactly the difference between this round and the round before that I was hoping to see. So hopes are high again that this can be turned around. Again, may the better team win, but I hope that we will see a little bit more action here and a little bit more aggressiveness, which I think could be needed on both sides.
Agreed, and I was going to say, I think we are seeing what you kind of recommended there, 51st getting in now, pressuring hot. That 3 up, 3 back formation from inSKY is seemingly pretty broken up right now, and I think they're struggling to kind of react from that here. And we see this Southern 3 group of Slutcher, Titanium, and X-Man are now pushing in with 11:55, firing a aim 7. I would assume to bump them back as he is now turning cold.
That's also, for example, those aim 7s being used as defensive missiles. You might think, okay, that's a good tactic, I'm going to use it as a defensive missile. But the thing is, the moment you turn around, it's not a defensive missile anymore, it's just waste in the sky, right? As I think, aim 7 is a good missile for close kill, sneak ups, catching bandits from the side, defending a friendly, stuff like that, right? But if you fire a long shot aim 17s, you have to guide them through. And they're flying against J11, so they're flying against rather weak R77s. Is, in my point, is the worst missile in the game, and I'm really sorry for that for the red side, because the R77 back in our days was a really strong missile. If you came within 15 kilometers, you would have been killed. But now the 77 is almost a short-range missile. I mean, not that the other ones are that much longer range, but still they give you a little bit of longer arm. And here you can see as well, X-Men was able to put that R27ER on inSKY 1823 and 1155 on the south, which are now cold and basically being pressured on, because that aim 7 did not break anything on the 51st side, right? The same as with the aim 7 in the north. Again, in my opinion, wrong choice for a defensive shot. And once you break lock, it can be completely disregarded by the enemy. So aim 7 better kept for that last minute kill shot. And I sometimes rather wouldn't fire a missile at all. I would just go in there, make a mock run, make the enemy fire his missile, make him expend his ammo. I keep mine. Even the ETs, ET here in the chat, that's a good comment. But also an ET, it's a gamble if you fire it from too long. It can be a strong missile if you can deploy it at the right moment. And I want to keep those missiles who are capable of being fire and forget, who are capable of being killer missiles, right? I want to keep them for the killer moment. Yeah. If I fire them all on the defensive shots, and then I end up only with aim 7s or stuff that is less worth than that, it's a little bit of a pity, because then I could have used them, right? We have a very long R77 shot here from X-Men, and this again here, this is a good thing, because this is a fire and forget missile. The missile launch warning will stay on, and although it is long range from about 40 nautical miles, 50 nautical miles, it is gonna keep pressure on that on the inSKY guys, which, as you can see now in the south, are still being cold. And X-Men switched from inSKY 115 immediately to inSKY 1825 in the very south. Now went cold himself. The AIM 120B is way too late from inSKY 1823, and the pressure is now really on the 51st side. And that's a great change. That's a great
momentum shift.
Yeah. Mistakes. Yeah.
Yes, no doubt. It seems as if 51st now has that momentum. They're really driving through now. Look at this formation from inSKY is almost non-existent in this matchup. I mean, we are seeing them do things we don't normally see here, and I think that's a very good thing for 51st. They are doing what they want to do, not allowing inSKY to set up and push them into the position that inSKY wants them in. I think that is going to be one of the deciding factors of this round here of match 2.
Exactly. Now, the one thing that is careful for the where the 51st has to be careful now is that when you put up that pressure, you do not expend all your missiles too early. If that happens, you know, at some point the enemy will notice they're not firing anything at us anymore. I think they're empty, you know, so they can turn around and just overroll you. But I think 51st is managing well here. It wasn't too many shots, wasn't like unnecessary shots. They kept nice pressure. Now it turns around a little bit, and they have to be careful now that inSKY does not reconsolidate their line too much. If they do, this could switch very quickly in an instant, you know.
Yeah, it seems like both sides have kind of pulled back now or resetting. Yeah. inSKY seems to be forming up into their traditional formation here, although they have 163 real far north here, almost up in the hills. He almost seems to be singled out to a degree. 925 may struggle to get in there, although Moltar and Yaga could be looking to exploit that. But 552 seems to be in a position to prevent that from happening. And here we go. Shots out from Moltar with a 27 ER and 163 putting another 27 ER on him. And it looks like those two are going to cross paths as these two both extend away. Although that one is moving pretty quick on Moltar. Let's jump into his view.
That ER is not gonna hit because he broke lock, you know. And here's the thing, okay, when you do semi-active versus semi-active, you have to snake at some point, okay. If I see the other guy going cold, I will just stay hot on him, man. His missile doesn't count, you know. Yaga is sticking with his wingman, which is very good, you know. We learned all in Top Gun, never leave your wingman.
Indeed, absolutely. Cardinal rule right there.
I mean, Jester told us that.
You never leave your wingman.
Never leave your wingman, but at the same time, here what would have been possible is, you know, Moltar keeping on the pressure and Yaga basically attacking anybody. Okay, we lost Technitinium, unfortunately. It got hit by an AIM-120.
Down to the south there, we did lose Technitinium. All right.
That was 552. No, actually, that I think was more in the middle. But unfortunately, we missed that when we were a little bit focused on Yaga and Moltar. But they're keeping a nice formation. They're keeping together. And the pressure, although they lost one guy, is still on the 51st side. Now they have to find a point where they can capitalize on that pressure.
Yeah,
you know?
they need to try to single out one of these inSKY guys here and level this out.
Yeah,
but
there was a moment, you know, when you said like this formation is really broken up. You know, thus when the 51st again went cold, in my opinion, they should have pressed on a little bit more there. Capitalize on the chaos like now, you know. I mean, of course you got to be careful of those AIM-120s, but when everybody's running, they're usually not shooting from their back, right? I mean, usually the missiles come from the nose.
Indeed. And even though they lost that man, they're still pressuring. You could still see them pushing on inSKY. Here we go, another shot out from X-Man on 1823 in the south, but he does have 1153 pushing on him. Question is, can Slutcher come in?
ET shot on Moltar. Grab Moltar in the F2 view.
Does he see that?
ET hits. Okay, something just happened here. Moltar is stationary from me.
You just disconnected, oddly enough.
I disconnected.
At least that's what the log is showing. And Moltar still evading there.
Yeah, I disconnected. Sorry for that, guys. In the meantime, Billy will take over.
Shot out there. inSKY now really putting some shots out on Frosty. It looks like he's going to evade there, though. Moltar and Yaga, however, have 163 cornered out here to the north. Shots out from Yaga and 2 shots out from Yaga. 1 fire iron over the top. Here we go. Caught him, and it looked like 163 went down as well. Is Moltar going to make it through that? And it looks like he will. And they exchange.
You were just cut out, Billy.
Oh, sorry. It looks like Yaga and Moltar just exchanged. And we lost one from each side on that. I'm going to get back up and try to get a square view of what's going on here. 4 fighters for 51st. 5 fighters for inSKY.
Yeah, Yaga and I think 163 traded.
And here we go. X-Men now cold. Frosty pushing in, chasing 552 and 1821, but 1155 is pushing on him. Moltar looks to be turning around in on 925, and if Frosty can... Oh, here we go. Frosty and 1155 seem to be exchanging, but 925 pushing hot on Frosty. Moltar needs to get in there and cover 925 so Frosty can...
Give us Frosty an F2.
Certainly.
That M120 is coming close.
And it looks like he may have used the terrain there to buy himself some space.
Very good, very good. Yeah.
Yes,
Frosty
very good terrain masking.
But so did 115.
And now it looks like 51st is, for the most part, coming back in hot. inSKY only has 1 fighter cold. 2 shots out now from inSKY. 552 and 1823 putting shots on Frosty and Slutcher. Going
Look
to
at
Frosty
that
again.
TP in the north on 925. Moltar flanked them a little bit. I think he could have kept that flank a little bit more.
Ooh, and I just switched off. Yep, I just lost Frosty there. Sorry about that, guys. And he is tumbling through the air.
That ET unfortunately is not gonna hit. And Slutcher is in deep trouble here. Slutcher has been pressing a little bit out of formation and is gonna get cornered.
And he fires
deeply
one
now.
himself.
He's got a 77 off on 1821
Another shot out.
and an ER, but he's not being noticed by 115 and 1823. So maybe Slutcher could turn this around, you know, if you can push the guy out and X-Men and Moltar catch up quickly enough and do not get killed by 115, there's still a chance for the 51st to turn around.
And X-Man getting shot at by 2 AIM-120Bs now. This could be a problem for him, although he's going to use that terrain to his advantage there and dump a whole bunch of chaff. Some of it a little late, though. I think some of that chaff might have been...
Whoa, that M120 missed him just by a margin.
Oof. Slutcher, or Moltar and
Slutcher,
X-Men.
yeah, that's what I said. Slutcher now pressed, and now Slutcher has to become aware of 552 in the north. He cannot double back now into the other guys. He will be at a disadvantage. But if he can grab 552 off guard, then the field will be leveled again, and that's how quick it goes. There it goes. R73 on 552. 552 is not aware. 552 is gonna catch it. Yeah.
There we go.
2 kills in a row by Slutcher. That's
Beautiful work, Slutcher.
We have Moltar and inSKY 925, and Moltar has a 73 going in close on 925, and I think it's gonna hit. The second
And it does.
So now
Beautiful
we have
shot,
3
Moltar.
51st against 2 inSKY guys, and that's how quickly it can change. It was so important.
Wow.
Slutcher did not double back there, but basically went against them full front. And now he's alone. He really needs Moltar and X-Men coming back to
He's
him.
dumping chaff. He's engaged.
He defeated the missile broke lock. He notched it away. That's very good. He survived that, and now they are splitting them in half. Slutcher can come down right in the middle and split 812, 1823 and 115, and Moltar and X-Men really need to put on pressure now. Moltar
Missile
and X-Men
coming
shouldn't
in.
Here comes
the shot out. Whoa! Just clipped him.
Most valuable player of the round for sure is Slutcher at the moment.
Absolutely.
He's done a really great job. I think he killed 4 guys. Or 3 guys at least, didn't count now, and now it's 3 versus 1, and that's how quickly it changes if you keep on the pressure in the right moment, and if you find that moment, guys, right? That's very important. If you let off at the wrong time, if you go defensive at the wrong time, if you do not capitalize on the pressure and on your momentum, you will catch it, and that's what happened to inSKY here. So I'm very glad that we will get probably a 3rd round here instead 1-1 in if 115 does not pull a miracle, but right now all the 3 guys just need to put pressure on him and be done with it.
And
that's what I would do.
We're
Hunt him
focusing
down,
on
get him.
1155 here. Try to get the view of this. He's got 3 guys now chasing him in. He is out of missiles. Well, I'm sorry, 1 aim 7 left on the rail, and I'm assuming some guns. Got to be low on fuel.
Here comes the ER from Slutcher again, and it looks like a kill shot. And that's it. Slutcher, most valuable player of the round. Absolutely.
Wow!
he
Wow!
almost single-handedly here. So that's a
Let's
very,
check
very
that
good job by
stat line.
Slutcher and the 51st in general. They really learned from the mistakes from the last match. They capitalized on that, and now they have to make it RTB, which I think in the SC27s will be no problem for them. So this was a really great turnaround, and it is great to see that the battlefield has been leveled, and that you know, you've seen the big difference here is that in the last round, you know, Slutcher was the one who was basically most defensive from all of them, you know. And now he was the guy who was most offensive from all of them. And that's where you can see, you know, it's not always the defense, it's not always the offense. You really have to pick the right tool for the right time. And they picked the offensive toolbox, and it was the right toolbox to pick because it did break inSKY's unity, if you want.
Agreed.
Apart, and it got them on the run. And they capitalized on it. They paid with 3 aircraft for it, but those were well invested losses.
Indeed, and I think, you know, you brought that comparison to Ultimate Frisbee up for earlier, and I think that's a very good comparison, because it's true that one of those situations where having to flip the switch between defense and offense is one of those decisions that's making that accurately is one of the most crucial parts of the whole thing. Knowing when to play defense, knowing when to go on offense. Such a big part of what we're doing here. And I think we saw that is one of the biggest things 51st fixed in this second round. They seem to know when to flip that switch at the right time, and certainly took advantage of getting that pressure on inSKY here. That was an amazing turnaround by 51st. Slutcher having the match of the playoffs so far. I think the best single performance we've seen in quite a while.
Yeah, but also always remember, guys, you know, it's always the team, right? It doesn't actually matter from which aircraft the missile comes off. If you fly as a group, it's always a group kill, and everybody is working towards that objective. So, you know, if somebody's assisting, he's just as important as the shooter. If somebody's dragging, he's just as important as the guy who's dragging, and so on, you know. So it's not only just Slutcher's work. Don't misunderstand that, guys, please. It was a really great team of effort by the 51st in general. I'm really happy to see that it turned around, because now you know, the teams are even again. It's 1 versus 1. By the way, sorry that it's not updated up there. It's not 0 versus 0. It's 1 versus 1, guys.
Struggling to get that fixed. Sorry, guys.
But we'll keep you posted. So anyway, you know, it doesn't really matter what's up there. But yeah, I mean, you know, now we will see how the third round goes out. We will see if inSKY learns from that, because this time inSKY thought, you know, I mean, we won, we can just run the same tactic that we did before, not accounting for the fact that 51st might adapt for it, might come in more aggressive, and that they cannot basically keep on as passive as they were before, because now inSKY submitted to the same mistake that 51st submitted before. Yeah, they stayed too passive. We're not aggressive enough. We're basically cornered by the 51st, and that's what got them killed. So yeah, very good turnaround by the 51st, and very happy to see that it was a match that was filled with much more action than the match before. I don't know if you're talking, Billy, but sometime.
Yeah, no, sorry, I'm actually trying to change the score right now.
Okay, Roger.
Yep, I think I got it. But no, I think you know, we got what we wanted out of 51st there. They made the changes I think we both thought needed to be made, and I think that's in itself is a challenge to find around here. Seeing these teams that can go in, play that first match, struggle, figure out what needs to be done, come into round 2 and make the adjustments to actually win round 2. I think that's hard for some of these teams to do, because making those adjustments midway through can be very difficult. You have to be careful. I think sometimes teams can be a little hesitant too, because you think you're changing stuff for the better, but really you're making things more difficult on all the guys involved. And it does look like I got the scoreboard working up there. Sorry about the name being inaccurate. I can't change that, but I can update that for you now. So should be good.
So 1 versus 1, and it's inSKY, of course, not CNF. They're both Chinese teams. They train together a lot. They share similar tactics, but they don't share the name. So it really is inSKY, guys. Don't get misled by the wrong thing.
He sent me a couple files, but I don't think it's. I think I would need the Photoshop file to fix that. Unfortunately,
it's okay, man. We'll just leave it now. We've been spending way too much time fixing stuff in this.
Yep.
So sorry for that again, guys. You know that in the beginning it wasn't a smooth start, but I think we're off to a good match now.
Indeed, yeah. The days where Moltar's gonna fly.
Yeah, we'll just leave it CNF for the time being.
Moltar, he's definitely the guy who knows all the tricks around here. When he flies, it can be a little difficult for me to know exactly what levers to press back here.
Yeah. But yeah, 51st is forming up in a formation here for the RTB, which again I always like. You fly as a team, you take off as a team, you fight as a team, you land as a team. You don't just fly everybody on their own back to the base. That's part of the beauty of DCS. You do not enjoy only the fighting, you can enjoy the flying as well. And it's important to enjoy it because it increases your immersion. It puts you more firmly into that virtual pilot seat, and that puts your mind much more profoundly into the game. And the deeper you're immersed, the more effective I think you will become, and also it is so much more rewarding if you can land as a formation, or if you can make it RTB as a formation. So
Indeed.
You can enjoy the beautiful flankers now on their RTB. They still have where they're out from Kutaisi, so the range here is 44 miles from base, and I have no doubt that they can make it. But yeah, very great turnaround. If you guys want to know something about tactics, if you have some kind of questions, if you spotted something that we might have missed, then let us know in the chat. We'll try to, as I said, answer as much as we can. By the way, I hope we don't sound too not hungover, but sleep deprivated. I think Merlin here had a very nice blue flag night yesterday, and I've been up for 2 days.
I wouldn't call it nice. We got our heads kicked in. Reds or blue this time has been pushing pretty hard. We struggled to just fight them back last night. Mostly just sitting there spinning the tires.
Well, that's fine. That happens too. I mean, the cool thing is about mistakes in DCS is this is the book where you learn from, right?
Absolutely.
But you have to, and the most important thing is, that's what I see a lot. It's like it was lag, or it was the missile, it was the proximity fuse, it was the plane, it was the lag, it was the high ping, it was, so many people are looking for excuses other than themselves. That's a wrong mindset as a virtual fighter pilot, or probably also as a real fighter pilot. I mean, I've seen a documentary. I think it was about the virtual Blue Angels, or was it about some other, either aerobatic team or Air Force Navy in general. When they have debriefing, everybody mentions their own mistakes first, and that's the only thing that matters. Okay, what did I do wrong? And then once you're done, the others will pile onto that. And you did this wrong, and you did that wrong. And the important thing to understand is, if you did something shit, it doesn't mean that you're shit. It just means you did something shit, and you have to learn from that so that you don't repeat it, right? And that's why I always suggest to people, do not allow yourself to look for the mistake anywhere else than yourself. And then if you have a play night like that, like you described on Blue Flag yesterday or something, you know, you get your asses kicked, you're being on the run, you might have gotten shut down, you know, grab that tag view, watch it, and ask yourself, what did I do wrong? Why didn't it work as I wanted to? I thought this would happen and it didn't. Why? You know, and always blame yourself and nobody else. Then these mistakes really start making sense in DCS, because that's where you learn from and where you can really improve yourself on as a pilot, you know. I mean, and as always, you know, if you come to some point where you don't understand it, just approach some of us guys who've been longer around, you know, ask, you know, hey, show the tag view, you know, can always come to me, to anybody, you know, who might have a little bit of experience. Just go to them, somebody you confide in, whatever, ask them, you know, I did this mistake, I don't know what happened, I don't know why this happened, what can I do differently? And you will always get a lot of help in this community. So always capitalize on the combined knowledge of the community that is there for you, you know. I mean, like I said, often in the 104th we have zero secrets. You want to know something, we're gonna tell it to you just as it is, and then it's your thing to train upon that and make it your own tool.
No doubt, and as you're saying, that TAC view is such an important resource and tool. I know, you know, as you were saying, after we normally fly a blue flag round or we go do something like that, you know, we're in that TAC view looking, regardless of even whether we had a good match or a bad match, there's so much can be learned. You know, you may fly through, get a few kills, think you had a great match, then you peek down into that TAC view and you realize, you know, there was a couple instances where you could have done a lot more than you actually did. So I think always looking at that TAC view is such an important thing to do, because you're gonna pick up things that you're either doing wrong or not doing in the first place that are gonna make you better in general. So, you know, sitting down with the group or even just yourself and spending some time in there and just looking and asking yourself some questions doesn't hurt, you know. And as you're saying, the community is so strong and so full of people willing to help guide people in the right directions. I know I see a lot of posts throughout the various, you know, social media platforms that DCS is on, of people asking those type of questions. And to those out there who haven't done that, who do have questions, know that those resources are there. Those people are absolutely willing to get in there and help you and give you the information that's going to make you not only be more effective in DCS, but have a whole lot more fun at the end of the day. I think Iron Mike and I can both, you know, attest to when things are going right in this game, and you've kind of, you know, you've taken that knowledge you've acquired and molded it into something. The experience is just unmatched as far as what you can get out of this on an entertainment level once you really start honing down and learning those tactics and applying that stuff. And especially with, you know, in the squad format and doing that type of stuff, it can be so rewarding and worth a lot of the extra little effort you put in to get to that point.
Absolutely. I just want to switch a little bit to the overhead break they're doing now. Maybe you can show the next guy who's on the break. And for those of you who don't know, basically all three have broken already. Now they're all three have rolled over the porch. Here's how the overhead brake works. If you guys want to try that out sometimes for yourself, okay? In a NATO jet, what you do, 300 knots, 1700 feet above the runway, you brake with 2.5 Gs exactly, reciprocal course of the runway you're gonna land on. If you do it correctly with 2.5 Gs exactly, like middle of the brake, extend your gear, extend your flaps. The beautiful thing is your wingtip will be exactly parallel running down at the edge of the runway. It's beautiful. It works in every aircraft. These numbers, 300 knots, 1,700 feet above ground, 2.5 Gs into the brake on the reciprocal. When you see your wingtip reach the end of the runway, you, as we call it, roll in over the porch, 10 to 15 knots degrees down. You will have to add a little bit of throttle, pull a little bit back on the stick while you dive so that you don't come into a stall, and you will roll out exactly on the runway. That's a method the Air Force uses in order to bring in a lot of aircraft at the same time. Another good thing about this is that you see the runway and the airport below you. Of course, ATC in real life has to clear you for overhead brakes. They might want to come you differently. You might want to have IFR approaches. There's different ways to approach airports, VFR, IFR, and so on, sits and stars. I'm not gonna go into that, but an overhead brake is a beautiful, elegant way to land. And you can bring in 8 ships, 12 ships, 16 ships, 20 ships if you want, just one after the other, one after the other. If you're in a Russian jet, it's about 650 kilometers an hour, and again, 1,700 feet above ground. That's how many meters? Let's just put it through 3, so it's going to be 550 meters above ground, and 2.5 Gs. It's going to work just the same. Doesn't matter if it's a MiG, if it's an Su-27, if it's an F